There is not a more confusing prospect in the 2023 NFL Draft than Will Levis. At one point, Levis was commonly referred to as a potential top pick, but as the draft gets closer, more and more people have come out against him as a prospect. Now, he has elite talent, but it comes with a lot of problems, and taking him at the draft would be a huge risk, but it could pay off big. But first, how did Will Levis get to this point? Will Levis grew up and played high school football in Connecticut before he committed to play at Penn State as a 3-star recruit in the 2018 recruiting class. He picked the Nittany Lions over other top offers from Iowa and Florida State as a consensus top 50 quarterback recruit. In his senior year at Xavier High School, Levis set school records with 27 touchdowns and nearly 2,800 yards. At Penn State, Levis redshirted in 2018, and then in 2019, he played in 7 games as a redshirt freshman while he backed up Sean Clifford. Now, that included one start, which was a win over Rutgers. He ended up rushing for 108 yards and threw for 81 more in the win, including a 41-yard touchdown to Jahan Dotson. In 2020, he played in 8 more games, including another start. This time it came against Iowa. In that game, he accounted for just 140 yards before he was benched for Clifford in a bad loss. After 15 appearances for Penn State, Levis decided to transfer to Kentucky, whose offensive coordinator was Liam Cohen, who did recruit Levis in high school as the offensive coordinator at Maine. Levis ended up starting in all 13 games for the Wildcats in 2021, going 10-3 with a Citrus Bowl win over Iowa. He put up over 3,200 yards of offense and led the team with 9 rushing touchdowns. He was also 4th in the SEC with 33 total touchdowns as a redshirt junior. Now, entering his senior year, Levis was voted 3rd team preseason All-SEC, but his numbers actually ended up dropping off a bit in his second year in Kentucky. Levis ended up starting 11 games, passing for 2,400 yards, and scored 21 total touchdowns. Ahead of another potential bowl game against Iowa, Levis decided to opt out and prepare himself for the NFL draft instead, and later also skipped the Senior Bowl. There are a lot of reasons why a team may fall in love with Will Levis. He has really good size at 6'4", 230 pounds. He is a quarterback that is built like a linebacker. Now, I'm sure you've seen his progress pictures at some point. I mean, this dude is yoked. He is in amazing shape, and he is a freak athlete. Levis can scramble and make plays with his legs, but he's also big enough to be a red zone threat and absolutely body smaller defenders if he needs to. Levis has an absolute cannon of an arm. I personally think it's actually the best in the class after watching his film. Not only that, but he actually has a fast release, which you probably wouldn't expect. Levis is more accurate than I think he gets credit for, and his stats from Kentucky really don't help, but context is often needed when taking a look at him as a prospect. The pieces around him were pretty weak, and often interceptions weren't even his fault, but due to the wide receiver. It didn't help that he played behind a horrendous offensive line. That means he at least is going to be more used to, NFL pressure compared to a guy from Alabama or Ohio State. Levis has shown the ability to make good throws with point accuracy from short or medium range, and once he actually gets in a groove and builds a little bit of confidence, he's even so much better. But he does have a lot of problems, and that's why he's not considered a top 2 guy. He has solid footwork, but his mechanics are raw, his feet get really inconsistent, and that's what usually kills his accuracy at times. He doesn't always release the ball well, and yes, he has a cannon, but sometimes he just beams it when he doesn't need to. Levis is a smart guy. He denied scholarships from Ivy League schools, but he's not as smart on the football field as you'd probably hope. Levis isn't great at reading blitzes or coverages, and sometimes he doesn't even go through all of his progressions. He also gets really impatient sometimes and ends up doing something stupid. Levis is smart, but the instincts are bad. Reportedly, Levis isn't a great leader, which I know is a big concern after the whole Zach Wilson failure. There is talk of worries that, we couldn't beat out Sean Clifford at Penn State. But that's BS in my opinion. We didn't talk down on Joe Burrow not being able to beat out Dwayne Haskins. Like Burrow, Levis looked like a completely different player at his new school. The pro comparison that is super common for Will Levis is Josh Allen. Now, you can 100% see the similarity in their games, but being the second coming of Josh Allen is a pretty big ask. Will Levis has a lot more good on film than I was expecting, just because you hear so much negativity in the media about him. There is plenty of bad, and it's also very clear that the talent around him was below average at best, but there are moments that leave you very hopeful for his future. For one, and there isn't anything that is more apparent on film than Will Levis has an absolute cannon. Take a look here against Florida. He only has one guy flexed out, and that is ultimately where he's gonna throw it. The formation looks like it's a run, and most of the defenders bite, and Levis is able to take the drop, and with his back foot on the Wildcats 37, he throws a deep ball to Dane Key, who goes up and gets it right around the 2. For those bad at math, like myself, that is 61 yards on a dime, and it's a beautiful throw. Accuracy is an issue at times, but when he's on, he's on. He showed he could deal with pressure often because he was usually under pressure. Early against Georgia, he made a great throw with 2 wide receivers to the left, 1 to the right, running back in the backfield. In his own end zone, Levis is able to take the snap, and with plenty of pressure coming his way, he delivers a great throw over the shoulder, only where Barian Brown could get it around the 35. I do want to at least showcase some of his physicality, and one of the best ones I could find was against Miami of Ohio. Kentucky is down in the red zone. Levis takes the snap, and the rush just immediately floods through. He's able to escape it and gain a few yards, and instead of going down, he instead jumps and collides with multiple defenders. Now, maybe that's not exactly what you want to do, just risk your body like that, but it does show how physical he is. Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah have Will Levis in very different spots on their third mock drafts. There is one similarity though. They both have a team trading up to get them. Mel Kiper has Levis going at 3 to the Colts after Indianapolis trades up with the Cardinals by 1 spot just to make sure they get him. The Colts have some good roster pieces that could help out Levis, and Indianapolis absolutely needs a new quarterback, plus new head coach Shane Steichen did just help Jalen Hurts develop, so he'd be there to help Levis. On the other hand, Kiper didn't have Levis off the board until 19 to the Buccaneers. Now, Tom Brady retired, and now the Buccaneers are turning to Baker Mayfield. But if a guy like that falls into their lap, it'd make perfect sense for the Buccaneers to jump and get their guy. I know I'm in the slight minority here, but I actually like Will Levis a lot as a prospect. The more I've dove into film, I do prefer him over Anthony Richardson. I do think Richardson is the most athletic guy in the class, but I just have little to no faith in him actually working out the more I watch. I can see a scenario where Will Levis is really good and turns into a star though. He has a ton of talent and a great arm. There are a ton of issues in his game though, and that is why Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are better options. I don't understand the overall hate of Will Levis though. He's no worse than a lot of past prospects that have been propped up. It reminds me a bit of how everyone hated on Justin Herbert back in 2020. I was on the right side of thinking when it came to Herbert, and he became a stud. Maybe that'll be the same case here, or everyone can comment this aged poorly on this video in 2 years, but only time will tell.